The bigger the boat, the less likely the owner is the captain. This is true of airplanes as well. Edit. Yes, John Travolta is a pilot. Yeah, who wants to hire a pilot to fly a toy aeroplane? And houses. The owner is very rarely the pilot. Mostly because houses don't have pilots. Kinda irrelevant, but a CEO of the company I used to work for at one point rented a 747 and a pilot, so he could be a co-pilot. True of companies as well. Except the owner of the yacht I work on, who frequently pilots his own Bombardier private jet to and from the boat, especially as COVID is slowing holiday travel down. Wouldn't trust him at the helm though. Except for Bruce Dickinson. This applies for trucks and buses too. Except for John Travolta. John Travolta would like to have a word, winky face, and cars. The larger the boat, the less it's used after the honeymoon period. Hey, did you know John Travolta is a pilot? Still true. Says less likely not never. I thought up was being metaphorical. 737 Captain checking in. You speak the truth. In fact, this rule applies to pretty much everything. As your hourly wage increases, the things you do for yourself seem to decrease proportionately. It's a simple function of what your time is worth, and how you wish to spend that time. Growing up so poor that I lived on ramen noodles and boiled eggs for a good number of years, it was a shocking revelation that at some point I had to decide what my time is worth, and what I wanted to do with it. Before we had a child, I could easily pick up a 3-day trip that was worth $4,000. After we had our daughter, I had to weigh the time away from home against the time with her. How much is it worth to be home with your only child? For me personally, I have completely internalized the concept of enough, and I only work as much as necessary to ensure a secure future for my family. But it does make you super appreciative of your time at home when you're literally giving up over $1,000 a day to be away from home. For some people, they never hit the point of enough. They're more miserable because they didn't make the extra 10M by working a weekend. This has to be some kind of disease of the mind, and I'm glad I have my personal priorities straight. Not necessarily John Travolta is an example. My coworker has rich friends. She and I always go over what each of us did over the weekend. A few weeks ago I asked her if she did anything fun. She says, yeah, I had dinner with friends on their boat. I said that sounds like it could get messy dealing with food while the boat rocks back and forth in the water. She said, well, it's a 90-foot yacht, so you can't really feel it. I was like, you should have just lead with, I had a private dinner with friends on a 90-foot yacht. Rich people live in a whole different world. I went to a high school with mostly really rich people, like own private jets and mansions all over the world rich. We were on a field trip and this girl's $1,500 purse with thousands of dollars of stuff in it was stolen. She was upset for maybe a second until she called her dad and then got super happy. She said, it's actually a good thing, Daddy is taking me on a shopping trip to buy a new purse. One of my favorite summer activities is paddling my kayak into a cove and setting up a charcoal grill on a rock sticking out of the water. Boats only rock when there's waves. If you're on calm water, a boat of any size can be perfectly still. This begs an interesting philosophical question. Namely, are the true owners of a child's toys, for example, toy boats, the child, or their parents? The conventional belief is that children have full ownership rights over any toys that have been specifically given to them. Yet in moments of conflict, parents are entitled to take possession of a child's toys, without any legal recourse by the child to regain possession of their toys. Which implies that the true owners of a child's toys are the parents, and not the child. This has significant bearing on the proposed shower thought, as it offers a strong counterexample to the claim. The bathtubs of the world are filled with the smallest boats of all, and their owners are arguably not their captains. I would argue that the parents represent a governing power with no ownership of the boat. Seizure of the boat does not change its state of ownership, and parents will be held accountable for damages incurred. The confiscation of the boat thus only presents a temporary restriction of access to the child's property. Concerning the question of captaincy, however, in some cases children may endow imaginary friends or action figures with captaincy. Given the existence of such cases, the original poster's shower thought is indeed refuted. Interesting. Boats are one type of thing whose captaincy is purely decided by strength of arms. It doesn't beg the question, it raises it. Begging the question is another name for circular reasoning. My parents always told me as a kid that I didn't own anything until I had a job and my own money to buy said things with. Yes, the parents are the true owners. No, this does not invalidate the shower thought because toy boats are a different object than boats. One is a vehicle, one is a toy that looks like a vehicle. Or so I'd argue. Ownership is fictional. I'm going to expand on this idea. All bathtub toys modeling boats are yachts, as their purpose is for leisure and recreation, even if they are modeled after vessels that serve other purposes. It works the other way around too. Technically the big boat is in someone else's possession, but in a moment of conflict it's the captain who's truly in charge of it, in possession. By moment of conflict I don't mean legal issues with the boat OFC. I read this in my head with Ben Shapiro's voice. Asian here. Since Asian parents think we're property/slaves, then the toys belong to them, since even if we own the toys, they own us, so the toys are owned by them. The concept of ownership is an illusion, mad. I have no problem impounding my child's vessel if he breaks the no big splishy splashies law of lake bathtub. Still his boat, he's still captain. He just needs to complete community service, cleaning splished and splashed water, as well as pay a fine of an apology and a hug, a kiss. Impounding officers will then immediately release the vessel unto him. Guardianship is a unique relationship. A person under guardianship, whether they are a child or a disabled adult, does not have full control over their property. For instance, a child under 18 cannot legally open a bank account unless it is jointly owned by a legal guardian. But doesn't the bank take away your vehicle if you don't make your payments? Perhaps the child is simply making payments on the toy boat through their good actions. Fail to make payment, and the toy boat is repoed. And once the child is 18, the loan is paid and toy is yours forever. Or until they become the banker, and loan it to their own child. There's something to be said about parenting style here, too. For a young child, sure, the toys really belong to the parents. But as the child grows up, at some point they need to have some amount of ownership over their things. Especially if they have siblings. Some gifts are shared and others belong to an individual. Birthday and Christmas gifts are not particularly different from an allowance, which is not too far a leap to a paycheck. Children often have some say in what they want for Christmas. That's kind of like budgeting a paycheck. There's a subtle difference between a parent telling their kid, "You are in trouble and I'm taking away your Xbox privileges," even if it means physically taking the box away, vs actually taking something away permanently. I swear, I was reading the whole time waiting for the Mankind throwing the Undertaker twist. Great point. I would also like to add that a child is not allowed to give away his toys without his/her parents being frustrated or angry. Which further proves that the parents are the true owners. Let's say you have ownership of the boat in question. Is there a lower limit on the size of the craft in order to be called a captain? I mean, when I'm paddling my canoe, do I qualify as captain? According to law they belong to the parents. According to my heart they belong to the children. According to Toy Story they belong to nobody because they are alive and slavery is illegal. You're no longer the owner if you gift it to the child. The real shower thoughts are always in the comments. I have the same question about baby teeth that fall out. I did not know where that was going until it was too late. Unreal. The conventional belief is that children have full ownership rights over any toys that have been specifically given to them. Citation needed. I don't think that's the conventional belief at all. This was a delight to read. I think it is a management level at that point. Kid owns the boat directly, but parents own the child, and thus because they paid for the boat and everything the child owns, they own it until the child is seen as a business owner themselves when they become an adult. Once they are an adult, all of their ownership only applies to what they purchase with their money and not necessarily the boat they owned, as it is still their parents'. The real question is if you cannot operate a toy, and must pay someone else who gets enjoyment from operating the toy to operate it for you plus all the fees to operate it, while you may own the boat, are you actually the one getting the most value from the boat? Yes, property law, the worst and arguably most important branch of law. Technically, minors cannot have legal ownership of property under most laws, so the toy boat in the bathtub is the parent's property. The child owns the toy, but the parent owns the child. The bigger the boat, the more likely they'll take offense at having it called a boat. I've said it before and I'll say it again. A ship has a minimum of 3 masts with square-rigged sails. Anything less is a boat, and I will not be changing my mind on the matter. I worked on a 180 yacht for a bit. Owner was on board and told the captain he wanted to pull off from the dock. We had every fender we could hanging over the side on the way out. Captain said he was shitting his pants the whole time. What's this mean? Of course the captain isn't the owner. He's a senior officer, but he's not the government. For naval ships, yeah. Small boats are usually private though. That's literally the point of the shower thought. I don't understand this one, could you please explain? If a fisherman has a boat, it won't be very big, but he will commandeer it and be the captain. If a multimillionaire has a yacht, he will almost definitely hire someone to be the captain, as he does not know how to drive a boat. I think it means the bigger the boat, the more likely it is that the owner has hired a captain. Okay. Think small trawler. The owner likely operates the vessel. Think cruise ship. The owner of the company likely doesn't captain the boat. The poorer you are, the more likely you have to captain your boat. The owner didn't know how to drive it, so they have to pay someone to do it. It's not the size that matters, but whatever floats your boats. Buoyancy floats mine. Back before joystick controls and bow/stern thrusters, 75 feet was about the max someone without a captain's license could easily control. Experienced yachters can happily and safely control 75 to 100 foot long yachts, while novices and beginners may need help handling something more than half that size. The size of the yacht that you can handle on your own or in a small family group without the assistance of a captain or crew depends more on your level of confidence in driving and controlling a boat. It also depends on how it's set up. A lot of larger boats are not solo friendly, and some smaller boats are also not solo friendly. Bow and stern thrusters are good, but try and navigate a 100 feet yacht without much side visibility through a crowded marina without hitting anything. On large ships the captain doesn't drive the boat. They are just the paperwork jockey. The first mates control the ship under the captain's orders. Sometimes the captain will park it. Usually they bring on a pilot to bring the ship into the port. The pilot works for the port rather than the company that owns the ship and is experienced with that one port. My husband and I always say, the difference between a boat and a yacht is who cleans it. There are more airplanes in the sea than submarines in the sky. Tenniel isn't very extravagant either. Timely. I guess I'm gonna need a bigger boat. Imagine a boat the size of the Pacific Ocean. I'd step aboard and be like, the captain probably owns this. Row, row, row your boat. It's a hockey stick curve because kids under 10 sailing oppies don't own their boat. If I ever own a huge ship, you can bet your ass that I'm gonna try to captain that beautiful behemoth. The more shit someone talks, the less original it becomes. The bigger the boat, the more likely you are to call the driver of the boat the captain. But more likely they'll say things like, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Ken confirmed. Edward Kenvey would say a ship, not a boat. Served on aircraft carrier, Ken confirm. When I was little, I assumed the person operating a given vehicle/machine was the owner of the machine. So if you were getting on a bus, it was the bus driver's bus and he probably took it home and parked it in his driveway at the end of the day. If you were on a plane, it was the pilot's plane and he would just fly it around on his own when he wasn't transporting passengers. Fantastic analogy for groupthink: the bigger the crowd, the more negligible the individual. I've worked, as coxswain, mate, and engineer, on large yachts, and most of the time the owner wants fuck all to do with the actual transportation of the yacht. Most owners will ask us to fly into where the vessel is moored, prep it, transport it, clean and prep for habitation, and they'll fly in and stay on it like it's a floating hotel. We might do a short cruise around an island or short trip, think St. Martin to St. Barth, 15 miles tops, stay all day at Nikki Beach, and bring them back. But a large yacht like the ones I've worked on require lots of fuel and maintenance. 1,200 gallons of fuel, lots of cleaning in and out, engine maintenance, electronics that constantly go wrong, etc. The owners don't want anything to do with that, and they likely don't have the training or experience to do so. So when the fun is over, they fly back to wherever they live, and we take care of the rest. It's a fun job because you can get stuck in the best places. There's nothing like running into 2 weeks of high winds in Turks and Caicos and having to stay put on the company dime while making day rate. Same with all things Also goes with cars. Go small enough and the captain is the owner's child. The bigger the boat, the less likely the owner is the captain. Other way around, I'd say. The bigger the boat, the less likely the captain is the owner. And the more likely that you're gonna get that shark. Not in the Navy. Captain. Yeah. Ship captain. You know what they say about big boats? Lots of water displacement. I like big boats and I cannot lie. Unless they're a pirate, then any size boat they are the captain of is now their property. If you had said ship, I was going to get Picard. Also true of extremely small boats. Most people who use canoes, kayaks, paddle boats, and little shit like that don't own them permanently. This is untrue for swan boats. Something motion of the ocean. Captain Rowboat. Hoppin' in the shower. I've been thinking of something similar but I can't get the wording right. So far it's: the larger the house, the less likely the owner actually lives there. Luffy disagrees. Sea-Doo rental company owners everywhere shift uncomfortably in their beach chairs. This is true with companies too, But you're always either a part of the ship, or part of the crew. There's a Jaws joke here, I know it. Below the deck guy. On another note, the bigger the boat, the more likely the person in charge is an admiral instead of a captain. I believe children can't legally own anything. Considering their parents can take their stuff away. So, by that reasoning, a child's toy airplane is actually owned by their parents/guardians. The bigger the house, the less likely the homeowner is the housekeeper. I guess Noah was the exception. I guess size matters. Why did I first read this with opposite placement? I.e., less likely the captain is the owner. The bigger and more affluent the country, the more likely the leader is not a king, possible exception USA and Trump. Gondola doesn't apply, lol. What about military captains? Doesn't the government issue them the boats so they are technically the owners? I'd say that an owner could say screw it, I'm selling this thing, which probably wouldn't go over all that well in most navies. The more expensive the car, the less likely the owner is driving, winky face. So, in a technical sense, even if it's a little dingy, the captain still might not be the owner. Is this gonna turn into a privilege thing, where you shouldn't be allowed to own a plane if you can't fly it yourself? When does a boat become a ship? And how do yachts fit in there? Yacht vs ship is generally determined by purpose, with ships being working vessels and yachts being pleasure-oriented. Anything smaller than 30 to 40 feet is a boat. Same with restaurants. So since over 100 years ago the Titanic was the biggest ship in the world, the captain didn't sink his own ship but instead sunk some millionaire's ship. I don't understand. Captain Jack Sparrow. You better really hope the captain of that big boat is not the owner. I've seen what happens when the owners drive. Damages and insurance claims everywhere. Can confirm. AM Captain. Boat only 44 long. Thanks for watching. If you could like, subscribe and comment best Reddit stories for more Reddit videos.